my channel. So today I'm going to be doing my hair, but I am back from Canada, so I'm going to also tell y'all about my trip and all the fun stuff we got up to. First things first, in my prep vlog y'all saw me leaving to go to the airport. So our flight was for 5:20. We had to go to the parking lot and we had to park our car. So we pulled up, I want to say it was like 2 something. We pulled up with luggage in hand, and if we didn't have to check our bags, we could have just went through security and been chilling at the gate, but we had to check our bags. So we had to wait for the check-in counter to actually be open, because you can't check your bags at the kiosk obviously, and we didn't know what time the counter would be open. But my mom was like, oh, I think they'll probably end up being open like an hour or so for like the departure. And I was like, the plane takes off at 5:20, so the boarding is gonna be like 4 something. Y'all know DFW is big, it's not a small airport, and security is not always the fastest. But it was 5 a.m. so like I had faith, but I was not liking the fact that we got there early for practically nothing, because we could have pulled up at 3 and been fine. Me and my mom, luckily, because we were there at like the butt crack of dawn, we ended up being the first ones in line when the counter did open. It opened at like 3:30, so I was like, 3:30 and we still need to go through security, it's fine. So we ended up checking our bags, and security was actually not on 10 that day, so that was good. We got through security pretty easily. Flight 1 was from Dallas to Michigan. The Michigan airport was big, and not big in the sense of like DFW big, but big in the sense of like where we landed versus where our next gate was departing from was so long. I had thought that we were gonna stop and get something to eat on the way to the airport. My mom was like, we could just get something to eat at the airport. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Let's just do that. We get to the airport, we get through security, get to the gate. None of the restaurants are open until 5 in the morning. Our gate was right next to a Einstein's Bros, but I quickly remembered my orthodontist told me, while you have your braces, these are the foods you need to steer clear from. One of those being toasted bagels. So I'm like, of course the only food place that is right next to us would be Einstein's Bros. Even though I love Einstein's Bros, I can't eat Einstein's Bros right now. By the time they even were going to open, our group was being called to be boarded. So I'm like, I'm hungry. And that first flight was for 2 hours. And I am a firm believer of like, let's eat before we get on the plane, because you never know what could happen. When we got to Michigan, we had like just enough time to get some McDonald's, because I'm like, I'm not getting on another plane without eating food. Like, no. I'm hungry. And it is going to make me upset. The second I ate the last bit of my little hash brown, they called our boarding group to go on the plane. I'm like, thank God. My aunt actually lives in Montreal, so we flew in through Montreal because it just made more sense. It was really chill. After all of our flying, we went from the airport straight to my aunt's. We're currently in Montreal. We go to Toronto tomorrow, like really early in the morning, so we're gonna get a power nap in, and then we'll probably go get some like dinner or something. I'll talk to y'all a little later. After our nap, we decided to go take a walk in a park, and it was called the Renee Levick Park in Lachine. It was really cute, so we took a stroll there. We took some pictures. The sun was kind of setting by the time we got there, so we just kind of walked around. And then after we left there, we ended up just going back to my auntie made us some food, very tasty. My family can throw down in the kitchen, so I was not worried. That was day 1. The next day, we had a train to catch at 6 a.m. in the morning. My aunt had like really prepared. She had snacks because we didn't really have time to get breakfast in the morning. It was a 6-hour train ride. The train was really nice. It was the Via Rail train, and it was like 4 seats back to back, like a table in between us. It felt like I was going to Hogwarts. By the time we got there, I want to say it was like 12 something, so we still had the rest of the day to do stuff. First thing we did after we got off the train is we went and exchanged some of our American money for Canadian dollars. We didn't want to use our credit cards too much because then it would charge us the international fees. So we tried to minimize our spending on our credit cards. After we changed our money, we checked into our hotel. We stayed at the Hyatt Regency in downtown Toronto, and I wanted to stay there because I knew all the places we wanted to go were going to be in that like area, and I felt like it made more sense to splurge a little bit more on the hotel that's in a more central location, because then if we want to go somewhere, you can low-key walk. Even if you do end up Ubering, the Uber's not going to be as expensive if it's like a shorter distance. Y'all know how Uber works. We pulled up and it was like 12 something, and check-in was at 4 p.m. And when we pulled up, he was like, oh, we actually have a room ready for you. We were able to put our bags down. We ended up going to Chipotle for lunch. We walked from the Chipotle in downtown to the Toronto sign. It was the water fountains, and like the Toronto sign was in front of it. So we stopped there on our way to the mall, and we took some really cute, cheesy Toronto pictures. Like, I wasn't trying to be like, oh, let me live how the locals live. No, I want to live like a tourist because I'm not from here. So let me see all the touristy, cheesy things. And the Toronto sign was on the list. I was using my tripod and my clicker, and they were definitely a hit on the trip because I was like, I don't need to ask nobody. Let me set up my tripod, get the little clicker, click, 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 get our cute little pictures. It was nice because it was hassle-free. After we visited the Toronto sign, we went to the Eaton Square Mall. It was a nice mall. It was very cute. We just walked around the mall, just kind of like building up our appetite again for dinner. I think the mall was 3 stories, and their Nordstrom was having a big sale. I ended up not buying anything, but we did find a dress for my cousin, and she looked so cute. After we left the mall, we walked back to our hotel and started getting ready for dinner. The CN Tower was like maybe a 5-minute drive. I was initially gonna be like, let's walk there. And my mom and my aunt were like, walk where? I got heels on. I ain't walking nowhere. So at the bottom, you have to, like, they have to check your bag. Because I think you can check in for, like, different things. You go in and they ask you, like, are you there for the aquarium? Because I think it's attached to an aquarium on one side. Or if you're going to the, like, observation deck, you can see Toronto on glass. And then right on top of the observation deck is the rotating restaurant. So before you go up to the restaurant, they stop you before you get on the elevator, took a picture of us in front of a green screen, and then during dinner they'll come find you and they'll give you options to purchase the picture. Like, you could either purchase them digitally, or they can like literally print them out for you on the spot. Like, they green screen a picture of like the Toronto skyline in the daytime and the nighttime. It was really cute. Me and my cousin got the steak, and my mom and my aunt got the same thing. I don't remember what it was, but it was like had like potatoes. It was like chicken, potatoes, and veggies. I had a rosé. My mom had a margarita, and my aunt and my cousin, they had this Coco Loco, something like that. If I didn't get the rosé, I would have gotten that Coco Loco situation because it tasted really good. I'd say overall, the food for the price, I wouldn't say it would be like my first choice. By the time we sat down to eat dinner, the sun was still up a little bit, so we got to see like the entire city while it was dusk, and then at nighttime while it was lit up. After dinner, you have access to go to the observation deck. So I felt like it made more sense to spend the money on the dinner than to just pay to go to the observation deck when it was like not that much cheaper. So I'm like, might as well get the dinner and go to the observation deck as well for like 2 birds with 1 stone, you know? The next morning, we ended up taking a morning stroll through downtown to go to the car rental place. We drove from Toronto to Niagara Falls. Let me just say this, Niagara Falls, she is huge, okay? You can see the New York side from the Canadian side, and looking at what the view looks like on the Canadian side versus seeing kind of like what the view would look like on the New York side, the Canadian side is so much prettier. Like, let me just say, if you want to go to Niagara Falls, go to Canada. Grab some lunch. We took some really cute pictures of the falls, around the falls, all that good stuff. We spent the entire day in Niagara Falls. I wanted to do like the boat ride where you're like on the falls and it takes you like right up to where it's falling. But when I showed my mom and my aunt like videos of what it looked like, they were like, no, I'm not doing that. Which was funny. Being there after seeing the boat, like my mom was like, look at the boat, look at the boat. I was not gonna get on that. Nope, I was not gonna get on that, because we're watching one of the boats trying to turn around, and it has to go with the water because it gets pretty close to the actual base of the falls, but it has to go with the water, because if it's not going with the water, like, it's not going to be easy for the boat to turn around. And it was having some trouble because like the water was really going crazy, and my mom was like, see, that would have been us. I still would have wanted to do it. So maybe I'll go back another time and do the boat. Oh my gosh, I didn't even tell y'all. Before we drove into Toronto, we got the rental car and then we went to breakfast at Siempre. It was really good. I either had pancakes or French toast, something that came with fresh fruits on it. Then we drove to Niagara Falls, walked around Niagara Falls, and then we drove back to Toronto. The next morning, we woke up super early to catch a train back to Montreal. We get back to Montreal, and that next day, we were just like, we're gonna chill. At that point, we were like, we've been going. Like, we're just gonna spend today to really chill and like hang with each other. So we didn't really do much that day. The next morning, that's when we went into like the city part of Montreal. So where we were staying, it was a city just outside of Montreal. So we ended up taking the metro train into the city. From the train station, we went to the Notre Dame Basilica. The time that we went, there was a live organ concert going on. It sounded really pretty. After we left there, we ended up walking from the Basilica to Chinatown. We got some Korean corn dogs and those are really good. I'm not a bird person. I do not like birds at all. So eating outside is just like pigeons are everywhere and it's just not my favorite thing, but it wasn't that bad. After stopping by and like walking through Chinatown, we ended up walking down to Old Port, Montreal, I believe. And as we were walking there, we stopped and we saw this one guy. He was doing caricatures. So we all stopped and he was like, I can do all three of y'all one. And I was looking at the ones he had done and I was like, okay, he knows what he's doing. So sat down to get our caricatures drawn. The first time I got a caricature drawing of me was in Orlando when I was 17. It looked like me. So I was like, oh my gosh, let me get another one. Let's see the comparison. I didn't want to see what it looked like before it was done. Like I was really dedicated to the process. When he finally showed us the finished result, and I was like, that's somebody. That is not me, nor my mother, nor my aunt. He made the caricatures in the drawing like they looked alike, but they didn't look like us. He still did a good job. After we got our caricatures drawn, we kept walking along like Old Port and we ended up seeing the I Love Montreal sign. So we stopped by there and we took some really cute pictures. While we're walking, I stopped, I got a churro. I love churros and funnel cakes. Further down, me and my cousin, we got some cotton candy. Aunt and my mom, they got caramel corn. And then we took the train back to where we were staying and we chilled for the rest of the day. The next day was the day before we were leaving. Me and my aunt, we ended up going to a mall. She took me to get a t-shirt made. I didn't think of like a design to put on the t-shirt. I asked the guys at the counter and they're like, well, you came to Montreal, get something cheesy. So I was like, okay, cool. So I ended up getting a regular t-shirt that had like Montreal with a little Montreal symbol on it. We got some smoothies, we got soft serve pretzels, and then we went back to where we were staying. I hadn't seen my aunt and my cousin in like years at that point, so it's just really fun to see them and just explore the city with them. It was like pretty much all we got up to. I feel like we got to see a lot without feeling too tired. Going back, I would definitely want to go to a winery in Niagara Falls. One thing that we didn't explore that I would want to explore is the nightlife in Toronto. We did more like daytime stuff. So coming back, our layover was 6 hours. They kept switching the gate. Luckily, our bags made it through all of the gate changes. We get off the flight and like I said, we didn't park at the airport. We parked at a park and ride. So I called them and I was like, we can't find the pickup station. They're like, it should be a purple sign. Me and my mom were like, I don't know if I'm colorblind. Not a purple sign in sight. I said, ma'am, I'm not seeing any purple signs. She's like, are you at gate da-da-da? And I'm like, yes. I said, we were at that gate. And she's like, there should be a purple sign like right. And I'm like, am I crazy? Turns out just us being tired and not really paying attention, we were on the wrong level. We were supposed to be on the lower level and we were on the upper level. Went down to the proper level and boom, snap, crackle and pop. It was just bright purple sign saying park and ride, park and ride. We had to recall the people again. Finally, we got on our shuttle, got to my car and drove home. But yeah, that's about it. So I'm just gonna finish doing my hair. I'll show y'all at the end what my hair all done looks like. But that's how my trip to Canada went.